Okay, learning target 7. So learning target 7 says I can identify the parts of a hair and elaborate on the differences between hair types. So hair is our first accessory structure that we talk about with the skin. By accessory structure, it's a part of it. It's helping, it's going to do some things for the skin, help protect us, keep us warm, things like that. So let's get into hair and the parts of it. So here we see it's going to be present on all surfaces except for just a couple, palms of our hands, soles of our feet, and then some of these external reproductive portions and our lips. You may be thinking, well, I don't have hair on my forehead or something like that, right? So even though in some areas it looks like we don't have hair there, but it's not very, you can't really feel it. It's not like you're shaving it, anything like that. You do have hair follicles there, and it's just not very well developed. So even an area like your forehead does have hair present on it. There's different types of hair that you'll have throughout your lifetime. The first type is called lanugo. Lanugo is this type of hair that is going to cover your body while you are developing. In the embryo, as a fetus before you were born. And that hair is going to cover your whole body, and most of it is going to be shed or lost before you're born. After you're born, you get this hair called vellus hair. Vellus hair is a little bit lighter. It's this hair that just kind of grows on your body as you're getting older. But before puberty. And then finally you get terminal hair. Terminal hair is the hair you develop at puberty. This would be like pubic hair, beard hair, chest hair, armpit hair, things like that. That would be terminal hair. So little story, my daughter, when she was born, had a full dark jet black head of hair. And then about 2 months later, she was almost bald. So she had a little bit this lanugo still covering her before she was born. But then as she lost that, we started to see vellus hair start to develop all over her body. But then terminal hair, you're going to start to see that as you get into the later stages. A couple pictures here. You can see up here, letter A, I have vellus hair. Letter B, terminal hair. You see a little bit of lanugo on this baby when it was born. This very dark hair here on the baby. But that baby that you see there in the picture on the left will lose that hair as it starts to develop, and it's going to be replaced by vellus hair. Just a little picture of what you're seeing here. Don't worry about this term androgens at the moment. Hair has lots of different parts. So the hair that you can see when we're looking at a person, right? The hair that you can see, like the hair on your head that you're combing, that's called the shaft. So anything above the skin is called the hair shaft. Anything below the skin is called the root. So there's a bunch of different parts to the hair root that you're going to need to know. First one is called the hair follicle. Hair follicle is the structure that's surrounding the root and kind of helps to protect it and nourish it. At the base of the hair follicle, we have something called the hair bulb. The hair bulb is where we're starting to see nourishment come in for that hair to grow. Now, a couple things within the hair bulb. The first one, I'm going to pull this picture up as I talk about it. First one's called the germinal matrix. Germinal matrix is where we're going to have mitosis occurring. So you can see the germinal matrix down here in this little purple area on the hair bulb down there. That's where we're going to have mitosis. Just like our skin grew through mitosis, our hair is going to grow through mitosis. So every time we produce cells, the hair gets a little bit longer. Underneath the germinal matrix, you have this thing called the hair papilla. Notice the hair papilla down here in this little bracket. This is where we have blood vessels actually extend into the bottom of the hair. That's how the cells can get nourishment. That's how the cells can grow and go through mitosis. So without that papilla, the hair doesn't grow. Without the germinal matrix, the hair doesn't grow. So once that germinal matrix gets damaged or just stops getting the nourishment it needs, well, the hairs will stop growing. But if those things stay alive, even if you cut the hair, it's going to keep growing. Here you see a ton of different structures on the hair. We're not going to go through all of these. We can get really complex with the hair, but don't need to worry too much about that at the moment. One thing I'll tell you is that, or that I want you to notice, is that all the cells within this hair. Hair is made of millions and millions of cells. And again, as mitosis occurs, they can just push everything out. And also notice melanocytes. Hair is getting color from melanin, just like your skin, because these are still skin cells that just have the hard keratin that we've talked about. How does the hair grow? Well, we've kind of talked a little bit about it already. As new cells are produced in the germinal matrix, everything gets pushed out and the hair gets longer. And then these cells fill with that hard keratin, which is a little different than the surface of our skin. One thing to keep in mind is we lose hair all the time. If you've ever combed your hair or you have a brush, you probably noticed that it's full of hairs that have kind of been yanked from your head. But we all know that's not a big deal, because as a hair falls out, another one grows in its place, and you're not going to have big bald patches. There are some phases of hair growth, so every hair will go through 3 different phases. Okay, now you don't need to worry about this anagen, catagen, and telogen phase that I'm seeing here, but that's the technical names for them. So the first one is called the growth phase. This is where most of the hair will be and where it spends most of its life. So you see here in the anagen, which is the growth phase, the hair is getting nourishment from the dermal papilla, and it is just growing. It's getting longer. The next is the transitional phase. This is where it's kind of slowing down its growth. The follicle has shrunk, and it's also starting to kind of detach. So that'd be the catagen phase, starting to detach a little bit from that hair papilla, and it's just slowing down. Finally, the last one is the resting phase. The resting phase, you notice here, that would be called our telogen phase. You see how the hair is starting to kind of move farther away from the hair papilla, and this thing is going to eventually fall out. Now, if you have that papilla that is still providing nourishment, then a new hair starts to grow in its place. So you see early anagen. So basically, this thing has started growing already before the other hair has fallen out. Okay, so again, you go through these 3 different phases. If the hair is not replaced, so you look at Mr. Moore and notice his head doesn't have any hair, well, that's because his hair follicles weren't replaced, and that results in baldness. How does our hair get color? Very similar to the skin. We have a pigment called melanin. The more melanin we have, the darker our hair will be. And specifically, somebody that has very dark hair, brown or black hair, has a ton of eumelanin. If it's blonde hair, it's a low amount of eumelanin. If it's red hair, we have this thing called faux melanin, which contains a bunch of iron. And also, if you ever get freckles or just light patches on your skin, that might be from faux melanin as well. Somebody that's an albino or has albinism, they're going to have white hair where they lack that melanin pigment. And then as you start to get older, you start to get some gray hairs. You're producing less melanin. Those hair colors start to change. A couple more things with hair. I know we're talking about a lot here. First of all is wavy or straight hair. If you have really curly hair, it's because your hair has a flat hair shaft. And just the way that the follicle has been shaped, the way that it's reproducing, it's giving you a flatter shaft. And the flatter the shaft, the more curly it will be. Okay? A more rounded shaft, if you look at the left-hand picture right here, you notice the rounded shaft, that's going to be a lot straighter because it's just growing in a straighter pattern. So the flatter it gets, the more curly it would be. If you have just kind of wavy hair, it's kind of ovalish. If it's really, really curly, you see it's really starting to flatten out there. And also, this will also grow out of the skin at a slightly different angle. That's also contributing to the curliness of the hair. And then last but not least, we have these things called erector pili muscles. Erector pili muscles, every hair on your body has an erector pili muscle attached to it. So it attaches to the bottom of the hair follicle and then extends up and connects just right at that basement membrane between the epidermis and the dermis. These things are responsible for giving us goosebumps. Why do we get goosebumps? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is through when you're cold. The theory is that when we are cold, our hair stands up, and that hair, when it stands up, it creates this little layer of air at the surface of our skin, and air is a great insulator. So when we trap that air, it's supposed to keep us warm. Now, obviously, in 2023, through millions of years of evolution, that's not necessarily keeping us warm in the low amounts of body hair we have, but possibly other mammals are putting that to work. Another one is fear, or that fight or flight response. So think of if you have a dog or cat, when they get scared or threatened, the hair on their back stands up. That's because of their erector pili muscles. And they're basically just trying to make themselves look big to ward off any predators or something that's attacking them, okay? So if you've ever had goosebumps, it could be from one of those two reasons. Why do we get bumps? Well, when the hair follicle stands up, the skin around the base of the hair shaft actually just wrinkles because it's getting pushed up by the hair. And that's why we get lots and lots of goosebumps all over our skin. And that is hair. That's our first accessory.